Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're going to dive into something that's really changing the game in machine learning, hypergraph neural networks. We're going to see how looking beyond simple one-to-one connections can give us a way more accurate picture of the super complex world all around us.
But let me start with a question for you. Think about your own social life for a second. Mapping a connection between you and one friend, that's easy. But what about your group chat, or a project you did with 3 other people, or a big family dinner? How do you actually draw a line that connects everyone all at once? This seems like a simple question, but it actually points to a massive challenge for a lot of our traditional data models.
You see, for a long time, the answer has been what's called a standard graph. This is the bedrock for things you probably heard of, like graph neural networks, or GNNs. And look, they've been incredibly powerful for things like social media analysis and recommendation engines, but they see the world in a very specific, and as we'll see, pretty limited way.
So here's the thing you have to remember about a standard graph. It's made of 2 things: nodes, which are the entities, the things, and edges, the lines that connect them. But, and this is the crucial part, every single edge can only connect 2 nodes. That's it. It's a world built completely on pairs, on one-to-one relationships.
And right there, that's the problem. When you try to squeeze a complicated group activity into a model that only understands pairs, you lose something really important. It's kind of like trying to describe a full orchestra by only writing down the parts for 2 instruments at a time. You just completely flatten the richness of it all, and you lose critical information before your model even gets a chance to learn.
So where does this happen in the real world? Oh, just about everywhere. Think about a research paper with 4 co-authors. That's not a bunch of pairs, that's a single 4-way connection. Or in biology, where a whole set of genes have to work together to trigger something. Even in physics, one particle can decay into a whole group of other particles at the exact same time. All of these are group interactions, not just a jumble of simple pairs. So, if the old way of doing things is kind of broken, what's the solution? Well, we need a smarter way to structure our data, and this brings us to the hero of our story today, the hypergraph.
Putting them side by side like this makes the difference so clear. A standard graph? It's stuck modeling pairs. A hypergraph, on the other hand, is built from the ground up to model groups. Its secret weapon is something called a hyperedge, which can link any number of nodes at once. So instead of approximating or distorting a complex interaction, it represents it exactly as it happened, faithfully.
Let's just focus on that idea of a hyperedge for a second. You can think of it like a superedge. It's not just a line between 2 points anymore. It's more like a bubble or a net that can wrap around a whole group of nodes, linking them all in one single direct connection. This is the fundamental upgrade that changes everything.
Now, this new structure isn't just more accurate, it's also way more efficient. Imagine in a standard graph where you're faking a group connection. For information to get from one person in the group to another, it has to take multiple hops through other people. But in a hypergraph, since everyone is already connected by that one hyperedge, information flows between all of them in a single direct hop. It's just a cleaner, faster path for communication.
Okay, so we have this really powerful new way to structure our data. Awesome. But how do we actually get a machine to learn from it? Well, that's where hypergraph neural networks, or HyperGNNs, come into the picture.
HyperGNNs are basically the specialized AI models that are built to think in terms of groups. A normal GNN would see a hyperedge connecting 5 things and just wouldn't know what to do. But a HyperGNN is designed for exactly that scenario. It learns by passing messages first from the individual nodes to the group hyperedge, and then from that hyperedge back out to all the nodes. This lets it truly understand those higher-order relationships and spot patterns that were totally invisible before.
All right, the theory sounds great, but does it actually hold up in the real world? Let's take a look at a really tough problem from the field of high-energy physics.
So the challenge was this: after a massive particle collision, figure out which of the resulting spray of particles came from the decay of one specific original particle. This is a perfect hypergraph problem, right? One thing decays into a group of other things. The number of possible combinations you'd have to check is just astronomical, which makes it a nightmare for older models.
And the results? The HyperGNN model, which they called Hyper, flat out beat the state-of-the-art models that were built on standard graphs. You can see it got a higher reconstruction efficiency, which means it was just plain better at solving this crazy hard puzzle. But honestly, that's not even the most impressive part of the story.
This quote from the research paper says it all. A superior data representation allows for drastically more parameter-efficient models. What that means is, by simply describing the problem in a better way, using the hypergraph, the model didn't have to be nearly as big or complex. It was just smarter, because it understood the natural shape of the problem from the very beginning.
To put that into perspective, let's look at some numbers. The previous best model, SpanNet, needed 17 million trainable parameters to do its job. Think about that. That's a huge, massive network. And the new hypermodel, the one built on a hypergraph, it needed just 3,450. No, that's not a typo. It got better performance with over 99.9% fewer parameters. I mean, that is just a stunning example of how powerful it is to start with the right data structure.
So, after all that, what's the one thing you really need to remember from this whole explainer?
Here's the big takeaway. HyperGNNs are so effective because they don't try to shove reality into a box that's too simple for it. They embrace the messiness. They embrace the complexity. They're built to see the world as it actually is, a rich, interconnected web where the important stuff happens not just between two things, but among many.
And that leaves us with a final, really exciting thought. From how societies work to discovering new medicines to understanding fundamental physics, our world is just defined by group interactions. So now that we finally have the tools to see and understand these connections properly, what are we going to discover? What problems that seemed impossible before are now within our reach? That's the exciting future that hypergraphs are opening up. Thanks for joining me.